Namaste. Luke chapter 14. And it came to be, as he went into the house of one of the rulers of the Pharisees to eat bread on the Shabbat, that they were watching him closely. And see, there was a certain man before him suffering from dropsy. And Yah-ooh-sha, responding, spoke to those learned in the Torah and the Pharisees, saying, Is it right to heal on the Shabbat? But they were silent. So taking hold of him, he healed him, and let him go. And to them he said, Which of you, having a donkey or an ox that has fallen into a pit, shall not immediately pull him out on the Shabbat? Yom. And they were unable to answer him regarding these things. And he spoke a parable to those who were invited, when he noted how they chose the best places, saying to them, When you are invited by anyone to a wedding feast, do not sit down in the best place, lest one more distinguished than you be invited by him, and he who invited you and him come and say to you, Give this one place, and then you begin with shame to take the last place. Rather, when you are invited, go and sit down in the last place, so that when he who invited you comes, he shall say to you, Friend, come up higher. Then you shall have esteem in the presence of those who sit at the table with you. For everyone who is exalting himself shall be humbled, and he who is humbling himself shall be exalted. And he also said to him who invited him, When you give a dinner or a supper, do not ask your friends, nor your brothers, nor your relatives, nor your rich neighbors, lest they also invite you back, and you be repaid. But when you give a feast, invite poor ones, crippled ones, lame ones, blind ones, and you shall be blessed, because they do not have means to repay you. For you shall be repaid at the resurrection of the obedient. And when one of those who sat at the table with him heard this, he said to him, Blessed is he who eats bread in the reign of Yahuwah. But he said to him, A certain man gave a great supper and invited many. And he sent his servant at supper time to say to those who were invited, Come, for all is now ready. But one by one they all began making excuses. The first said to him, I have bought a field, and I need to go and see it. I ask you to have me excused. And another said, I have bought 5 yoke of oxen, and I'm going to try them out. I ask you to have me excused. And another said, I have married an Asha, and because of this I am unable to come. And that servant came and reported this to his Adoni. Then Adoni of the house, being angry, said to his servant, Hurry out into the streets and lanes of the city, and bring in here the poor and crippled, and lame and blind. And their servant said, Adoni, it is done as you commanded, and still there is room. And Adoni said to the servant, Go out into the street corners and hedges, and compel them to come in, so that my house is filled. For I say to you that none of those men who were invited shall taste my supper. And large multitudes were going with him, and turning he said to them, If anyone comes to me and does not hate his father and mother, and Asha and children and brothers and sisters, and his own life too, he is unable to be my pupil. And whoever does not bear his stake and come after me is unable to be my pupil. For who of you, wishing to build a tower, does not sit down first and count the cost, whether he has sufficient to complete it? Otherwise, when he has laid the foundation and is unable to finish it, all who see it begin to mock him, saying, This man began to build and was unable to finish. Or what king going to fight against another king does not sit down first and take counsel whether he is able with 10,000 men to 10,000 to meet him who comes against him with 20,000? And if not, while the other is still far away, he sends a delegation and asks condition of peace. So then, every one of you who does not give up all that he has is unable to be my pupil. The salt is good, but if the salt becomes tasteless, with what shall it be seasoned? It is not fit for land, nor for manure, they throw it out. He who has ears to hear, let him hear. Chapter 15. Now all the tax collectors and the sinners were coming to him to hear him, and the Pharisees and scribes grumbled, saying, This one receives sinners and eats with them. And he spoke this parable to them, saying, What man among you, having 100 sheep, and having lost one of them, does not leave the 99 in the wilderness, and go after the one which is lost until he finds it? And having found it, he lays it on his shoulders, rejoicing. And having come home, he calls together his friends and neighbors, saying to them, Rejoice with me, for I have found my sheep which was lost. I say to you that in the same way there shall be more joy in the heaven over one sinner repenting than over 99 obedient ones who need no repentance. Or what Asha, having 10 silver coins, if she loses one coin, does not light a lamp and sweep the house and seek diligently till she finds it? And having found it, she calls friends and neighbors together, saying, Rejoice with me, for I have found the coin which I lost. I say to you, in the same way there is joy in the presence of the messengers of Elohim over one sinner repenting. And he said, A certain man had 2 sons, and the younger of them said to his father, Father, give me the portion of goods falling to me. And he divided his wealth between them. And not many yomim after, the younger son, having gathered all together, went away to a distant country, and there wasted his goods with loose living. And when he had spent all, there arose a severe scarcity of food throughout that land, and he began to be in need. And he went and joined himself to one of the citizens of that country, and he sent him to his fields to feed pigs. And he was longing to fill his stomach with the pods which the pigs were eating, and no one gave to him. But having come to himself, he said, How many of my father's hired servants have bread enough and to spare, and I am perishing with hunger? Having risen, I shall go to my father and say to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and before you, and I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Make me like one of your hired servants. And having risen, he went to his father. And while he was still a long way off, his father saw him and was moved with compassion, and ran and fell on his neck and kissed him. And the son said to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and before you, and I am no longer worthy to be called your son. But the father said to his servants, Bring out the best robe and put it on him, and put a ring on his hand and sandals on his feet. And bring the fattened calf here and slaughter it, and let us eat and rejoice, because this son of mine was dead and is alive again, and he was lost and is found. And they began to rejoice. And his older son was in the field, and when he came and approached the house, he heard music and dancing. And having called one of the servants, he asked what this meant. And he said to him, Your brother has come, and your father has slaughtered the fattened calf, because he received him back in health. And he was angry and would not go in. So his father came out and pleaded with him. And answering, he said to his father, See, these many years I have been serving you, and I have never transgressed the command of yours. But to me you have never given a young goat, so I could rejoice with my friends. But when this son of yours came, who has squandered your wealth with whores, you slaughtered the fattened calf for him. Then he said to him, Son, you're always with me, and all I have is yours. And we had to rejoice and be glad, for your brother was dead, and is alive, and was lost and is found. And he also said to his pupils, There was a certain rich man who had a manager, and he was accused to him as wasting his possessions. So having called him, he said to him, What is this I hear about you? Give an account of your management, for you are no longer able to be my manager. And the manager said within himself, What shall I do? For my Adoni is taking the managership away from me. I am unable to dig, I am ashamed to beg. I know what I shall do, that when I am removed from the managership, they might receive me into their houses. And calling every one of his Adoni's debtors to him, he said to the first, How much do you owe my Adoni? And he said, 100 measures of oil. And he said to him, Take your bill and sit down quickly and write 50. Then to another he said, How much do you owe? And he said, 100 measures of wheat. And he said to him, Take your bill and write 80. And Adoni praised the unobedient manager because he had acted shrewdly, because the sons of this age are more shrewd in their generation than the sons of light. And would I say to you, make friends for yourselves by unobedient riches, that when you fail, they shall receive you into everlasting dwellings? He who is trustworthy in what is least is trustworthy also in much, and he who is unobedient in what is least is unobedient also in much. If therefore you have not been trustworthy in the unobedient riches, who shall entrust to you the true? And if you have not been trustworthy in what is another man's, who shall give you what is your own? No servant is able to serve two adunim, for either he shall hate the one and love the other, or else he shall cling to the one and despise the other. You're not able to serve Allahim and riches. And the Pharisees who loved the silver also heard all this and were sneering at him. So he said to them, you are those who declare yourselves obedient before men, but Allahim knows your hearts, because what is highly thought of among men is an abomination in the sight of Allahim. The Torah and the prophets continued through Yahukanon. Since then the reign of Yahuwah is being announced, and everyone is doing violence upon it. And it is easier for the heaven and the arets to pass away than for one little tittle of the Torah to fall. Everyone putting away his Asha and marrying another commits adultery, and everyone marrying her who is put away from her husband commits adultery. But there was a certain rich man who used to dress in purple and fine linen and lived luxuriously every yom. And there was a certain beggar named Alazar, being covered with sores, who was placed at his gate, and longing to be fed with the crumbs which fell from the rich man's table. Indeed, even the dogs came and licked his sores. And it came to be that the beggar died, and was carried by the messengers to the bosom of Abraham. And the rich man also died, and was buried. And while suffering tortures in Sheol, having lifted up his eyes, he saw Abraham far away, and Alazar in his bosom. And crying out, he said, Father Abraham, have compassion on me, and send Alazar to dip the tip of his finger in water, and cool my tongue, for I am suffering in this flame. But Abraham said, Son, remember that in your life you received your good, and likewise Alazar the evil. But now he is comforted, and you are suffering. And besides all this, between us and you, a great gulf has been set, so that those who wish to pass from here to you are unable, nor do those from there pass to us. And he said, Then I beg you, Father, that you would send him to my father's house, for I have 5 brothers. Let him warn them, lest they also come to this place of torture. Abraham said to him, They have Musha and the prophets, let them hear them. And he said, No, Father Abraham, but if someone from the dead goes to them, they shall repent. But he said to him, If they do not hear Musha and the prophets, neither would they be persuaded, even if one should rise from the dead. And he said to the pupils, chapter 17. And he said to the pupils, It is inevitable that stumbling blocks should come, but woe to him through whom they come. It will be better for him if a millstone is put around his neck, and he were thrown into the sea, than that he should cause one of these little ones to stumble. Take heed to yourselves. If your brother sins against you, rebuke him, and if he repents, forgive him. And if he sins against you 7 times in a yom, and 7 times in a yom comes back to you, saying, I repent, you shall forgive him. And the emissaries said to Adoni, Give us more belief. And Adoni said, If you have belief as a mustard seed, you will say to this mulberry tree, Be pulled up by the roots and be planted in the sea, and it would obey you. But who of you, having a servant plowing or shepherding, will say to him when he has come in from the field, Come immediately and sit down to eat? But would he not rather say to him, Prepare somewhat for my supper, and gird yourself and serve me, while I eat and drink, and afterward you shall eat and drink? Would he thank that servant because he did what was commanded? I think not. So also you, when you have done all that you were commanded, say, We are unworthy servants, we have done what was our duty to do. And it came to be, as he went to Jerusalem, that he passed through the middle of Shamarun and Galil. And as he was entering into a certain village, he was met by 10 leprous men, who stood at a distance. And they lifted up their voices, saying, Yah-ooh-sha, Adoni, have compassion on us. And having seen them, he said to them, Go, show yourselves to the priests. And it came to be that as they were going, they were cleansed. And one of them, when he saw that he was healed, returned, praising Allahim with a loud voice, and he fell down upon his face at his feet, giving thanks to him. And he was a Shamaronite. And Yah-ooh-sha answering said, Were there not 10 cleansed? But where are the 9? Was no one found to return to give praise to Allah except this foreigner? And he said to him, Rise, go your way, your belief has made you well. And having been asked by the Pharisees when the reign of Yahuwah would come, he answered them and said, The reign of Allahim does not come with intent watching, nor shall they say, Look here, or look there. But look, the reign of Yahuwah is in your midst. And he said to the pupils, Yomim shall come when you shall long to see one of the Yomim of the son of Adam, but you shall not see it. And they shall say to you, Look here, or look there. Do not go after them, nor follow. For as the lightning that flashes out of one part under heaven shines to the other part under heaven, so also the son of Adam shall be in his Yom. But first he has to suffer much and be rejected by this generation. And as it came to be in the Yomim of Noach, so also shall it be in the Yomim of the son of Adam. They were eating, they were drinking, they were marrying, they were given in marriage, until the Yom that Noach went into the ark, and the flood came and annihilated them all. And likewise, as it came to be in the Yomim of Lot, they were eating, they were drinking, they were buying, they were selling, they were planting, they were building. But on the Yom Lot went out of Sodom, it rained fire and sulfur from heaven, and annihilated all. It shall be the same in the Yom the son of Adam is revealed. In that Yom he who shall be on the housetop, and his goods in the house, let him not come down to take them away. And likewise the one who is in the field, let him not turn back. Remember the Asha of Lot. Whoever seeks to save his life shall lose it, and whoever loses his life shall preserve it. I say to you, in that Layla there shall be 2 in one bed. The one shall be taken and the other shall be left. 2 shall be grinding together. The one shall be taken and the other shall be left. 2 shall be in the field, and 2 shall be in the field. The one shall be taken and the other shall be left. And they answering said to him, Where Adoni? And he said to them, Where the body is, there also the eagles shall be gathered together. I'm going to read one more chapter. Chapter 18. And he spoke a parable to them, that they should always pray and not lose heart, saying, In a certain city there was a certain judge, not fearing Allahim, nor regarding men. And a widow was in that city, and she came to him, saying, Do right to me, O my adversary. And he would not for a while, but afterward he said within himself, Even if I do not fear Allahim, nor regard men, yet because this widow troubles me, I shall do right to her, lest by her continual coming she wears me out. And Adoni said, Hear what the unobedient judge said. And shall Allahim not do right by all means to his own chosen ones, who are crying out Yom and Layla to him, and being patient over them? I say to you that he shall do right to them speedily. But when the son of Adam comes, shall he find the belief on the Arets? And he also spoke this parable to some who relied on themselves, that they were obedient, and looking down on others. 2 men went up to the Kodesh place to pray, the one a Pharisee and the other a tax collector. The Pharisee stood and began to pray with himself this way, Allahim, I thank you that I am not like the rest of men, swindlers, unobedient, adulterers, or even as this tax collector. I fast twice a week. I give tithes of all that I possess. But the tax collector, standing at a distance, would not even raise his eyes to the heaven, but was beating his breast, saying, Allahim, show favor to me, a sinner. I say to you, this man went down to his house declared right, rather than the other. For everyone who is exalting himself shall be humbled, and he who is humbling himself shall be exalted. And they also brought infants to him to touch them, but his pupils, seeing it, rebuked them. But Yah-ooh-sha called them to him and said, Let the little children come to me, and do not forbid them, for of such is the reign of Yahuwah. Truly I say to you, whoever does not receive the reign of Yahuwah as a little child shall certainly not enter into it. And a certain ruler asked him, saying, Good teacher, what shall I do to inherit everlasting life? So Yah-ooh-sha said to him, Why do you call me good? No one is good except one, Allah him. You know the commands. Do not commit adultery, do not murder, do not steal, do not bear malicious witness, respect your father and your mother. And he said, All these I have watched over from my youth. And hearing this, Yah-ooh-sha said to him, Yet one you lack. Sell all that you have and distribute to the poor, and you shall have treasure in heaven. And come, follow me. But when he heard this, he became intensely sad, for he was extremely rich. And when Yah-ooh-sha saw that he became intensely sad, he said, How hard it is for those who have riches to enter into the reign of Yahuwah. For it is easier for a camel to enter through a needle's eye than for a rich man to enter into the reign of Yahuwah. And those who heard it said, And who is able to be delivered? And he said, What is impossible with men is possible with Allah him. And Kephah said, See, we have left all and followed you. And he said to them, Truly I say to you, there is no one who has left house or parents or brothers or Asha or children for the sake of the reign of Yahuwah, who shall not receive many times more in this present time, and in the age to come everlasting life. And taking the 12 aside, he said to them, See, we are going up to Jerusalem, and all that have been written by the prophets about the son of Adam shall be accomplished. For he shall be delivered up to the Goyim, and shall be mocked and insulted and spat upon, and having flogged him, they shall kill him. And on the third Yom he shall rise again. But they understood none of this, and this word was hidden from them, and they did not know what was being said. And it came to be that as he was coming near Jericho, that a certain blind man was sitting by the way begging. And hearing a crowd passing by, he asked what it meant. And they reported to him that Yah-ooh-sha of Nazareth was passing by. And he cried out, saying, Yah-ooh-sha, son of David, have compassion on me. And those going before were rebuking him that he should be silent, but he was crying out much more, Son of David, have compassion on me. And Yah-ooh-sha stopped and commanded him to be brought to him. And when he had come near, he asked him, saying, What do you wish me to do for you? And he said, Adoni, to receive my sight. And Yah-ooh-sha said to him, Receive your sight, your belief has delivered you. And immediately he received his sight, and was following him, praising Allah him. And all the people, seeing it, gave praise to Allah him. Alright, should I read one more? Yeah, I'll read one more. So it's chapter 19. Chapter 19. And having entered, he was passing through Jericho, and see, a man called Zakkai, and he was a chief tax collector, and he was rich, and he was seeking to see who Yah-ooh-sha was, but was unable because of the crowds, for he was small in stature. And having run ahead, he climbed up into a sycamore tree to see him, because he was about to pass by. And as Yah-ooh-sha came to the place, he looked up and saw him, and said to him, Zakkai, hurry and come down, for I have to stay at your house today. And he hurried and came down and received him, rejoicing. And seeing it, they all grumbled, saying, He has gone in to stay with a man who is a sinner. But Zakkai stood up and said to the Adoni, Look, Adoni, I give half of my possessions to the poor, and if I have taken whatever from anyone by malicious accusation, I repay fourfold. And Yah-ooh-sha said to him, Today deliverance has come to this house, since he also is a son of Abraham. For the son of Adam has come to seek and to save what was lost. And as they were hearing this, he spoke another parable, because it was near Jerusalem, and they thought the reign of Yahuwah was about to be manifested straight away. He therefore said, A certain nobleman went to a distant country to receive for himself a rain and to return. And calling 10 of his servants, he gave them 10 minas, and said to them, Trade until I come. But his subjects were hating him, and sent a delegation after him to say, We do not wish this one to reign over us. And it came to be, when he came back, having received the rain, that he sent for these servants to whom he had given the silver, in order to know what each had gained by trading. And the first came, saying, Aduni, your mina has earned 10 minas. And he said to him, Well done, good servant, because you were trustworthy in a small thing, have authority over 10 cities. And the second came, saying, Aduni, your mina has earned 5 minas. And he said to him also, And you be over 5 cities. And another came, saying, Aduni, here is your mina, which I kept laid up in a handkerchief. For I was afraid of you, because you are a hard man. You take up what you did not lay down, and reap what you did not sow. Sorry, being distracted. And he said to him, Out of your own mouth I shall judge you, you wicked servant. You knew that I was a hard man, taking up what I did not lay down, reaping what I did not sow. Why did you not put the silver in the bank, that when I come I could have collected it with interest? Then he said to those who stood by, Take the mina from him, and give it to him who possesses 10 minas. But they said to him, Aduni, he already possesses 10 minas. For I say to you that to everyone who possesses shall be given, and from him who does not possess, even what he possesses shall be taken from him. But those enemies of mine who did not wish me to reign over them, bring them here and slay them before me. And having said this, he went on ahead, going up to Jerusalem. And he came to be when he came near to Beit Bagi and Beit Aniah, at the mountain of Olives, that he sent 2 of his Talmidim, saying, Go into the village opposite you, in which, as you enter, you shall find a colt tied, on which no one has ever sat. Loosen it and bring it here. And if anyone asks you, Why do you loosen it? Thus you shall say to him, Because Adoni has need of it. And those who were sent went away and found it as he had said to them. And as they were loosing the colt, the owners of it said to them, Why do you loosen the colt? And they said, Adoni needs it. So they brought it to Yah-ooh-sha. And throwing their garments on the colt, they set Yah-ooh-sha on it. And as he went, they were spreading their garments on the way. And as he was coming near, already at the descent of the Mount of Olives, the entire crowds of the Talmidim began to praise Elohim, rejoicing with a loud voice for all the miracles they had seen, saying, Blessed is the King who is coming in the name of Yahuwah, peace in heaven and esteem in the highest. And some of the Pharisees from the crowds said to him, Teacher, rebuke your Talmidim. And he answering said to them, I say to you that if these shall be silent, the stones will cry out. And as he came near, he saw the city and wept over it, saying, If you only knew even today the conditions of your peace, but now they are hidden from your eyes, because Yomim shall come upon you when your enemies shall build a rampart around you and surround you and press you on all sides, and dash you to the ground and your children within you. And they shall not leave in you one stone upon another, because you did not know the time of your visitation. And having entered into the Kodesh place, he began to drive out those selling and buying in it, saying to them, It has been written, My house is a house of prayer, but you have made it a den of robbers. And he was teaching daily in the Kodesh place. But the chief priests and the scribes and the leaders of the people were seeking to destroy him, but they did not find what they might do, for all the people were hanging upon him, listening. Okay. Thank you very much. In King Yah-usha's name, God bless you all. Amen. Namaste.